What's up, YouTube? So, in this video, I'm going to be talking about Creed Humphrey, center out of Oklahoma. And let me tell you, this dude is fantastic. I know he's been getting a lot of hype. And for the most part, the people that get a lot of hype in this draft class don't really seem to deserve it to me. Not the case with him. There's a couple little things for him to work on, but for the most part, I think he's a pretty complete player, and I think he can roll out of bed right now and be a great starting center in this league. Right off the bat, his communication skills are fantastic, and that's great for a center. He's really good about getting the other offensive linemen lined up where they're supposed to. A couple years ago, Oklahoma lost 4 of their starting offensive linemen to the draft, and he still kept them in line. So he's been just a great leader on that offensive line since he's been there. So, yeah. And he works really well with others, too. Like with combo blocks. He handles gap exchanges really well. And he communicates gap exchanges well with his guards and everything like that. It's just fantastic on that end. He can actually move a little bit, too. He's 6'5" and about 320. We'll see exactly how big he is when the combine comes around, but he definitely has enough size for sure. That's not a problem. But despite that, he can move a little bit. I wouldn't call him like a super athlete. Like, he's not as athletic as like a Penny Sewell. Because Sewell's like a freak athlete. But he can move a little bit. He can pull. He can climb a little bit, stuff like that. He does have a little bit of a problem when he does get into open space. I'll get into that in a minute. Let's see. His legs and feet are really good. His feet seem fluid. He keeps a pretty consistent base, pretty much parallel to his shoulders. So that's perfect. That's going to allow him to have lateral movement quicker, and is also going to help his balance and power. He's also got fairly long arms that he uses to his advantage. He can scoop block pretty effectively. Definitely has plenty of power. Like, he straight up moves one text. Like, that's a thing that he's very comfortable doing. And he's very good about finishing the plays he starts. So, that is, it's fantastic. His hands are very consistent. He gets them inside. Again, when he starts doing, like, zone run things, there's some things we'll talk about. But as far as just regular sets, his hands are very consistent. He doesn't miss with them. He gets them inside, and he doesn't move. They don't really budge him. Now, we'll get into some of the negatives now, because right now I've only talked about like the really good things about him, and I love this prospect. But there are a couple notes. One, he is a left-handed center. Now, I don't really care. And if he gets drafted to the Miami Dolphins, which is my team, this doesn't matter at all because it fits well for Tua because he's left-handed. But if someone else drafts him, I mean, most teams have right-handed quarterbacks, so that is something to be a little bit aware of because, when you snap it, particularly in shotgun, the ball will be spinning the opposite direction. That can kind of throw off the catch a little bit. But I don't think it's really that big of an issue. If you practice with it enough in training camp, it shouldn't be an issue for you. But it is something to note. And one thing I will say, when he goes into the second level, he does have a little bit of a tendency to miss linebackers. He looks like he's slightly hesitating, like he's not wanting to miss the quicker linebackers as he's starting to run, and sometimes he hesitates, and that actually ends up leading him to miss anyway. That is one thing I'd like to see him clean up. And also, he does have a little bit of a tendency to lean into people a little bit. Now, sometimes him leaning into people allows him to put them on the ground. But also, if you're going to be leaning into somebody, you are going to be vulnerable to, like, cloth pulls, swim moves, pulling the hands down. So just be smart with it, and he is smart with it. He doesn't do it all the time. He just does it sometimes, especially during the run game. But just be aware of that. He just needs to make sure he times that properly and doesn't do it too much. Because if they start to expect you to lean on him, a quick cloth pull and you're going to be on your face. So it is just something to note. Nothing really major that would stop me from drafting him high. So if you're a center needy team like the Dolphins, yeah, man, I think he's a fantastic prospect for you. I definitely think Penei Sewell is offensive lineman number 1 still. But I think him, depending on what you need between tackle and center, I think Creed Humphrey and Rashawn Slater are pretty good contenders for that next spot, just depending on what you need. But yeah, and honestly, I think even if you had a center, you could probably draft Creed Humphrey and play him at guard, and he'd be fine. He'd probably be even an okay tackle if you need him to, because his feet are good. But definitely his home is at center, so he's best at center. But he would be a good guard too. So if you got a really good center on your roster, but maybe your guards are shit and you're not in Sewell's off the board, don't be afraid of drafting Humphrey. So, but anyway, that's going to be it for this video. If you liked it, appreciate hitting that like button. Have any questions or comments, leave in the comments down below. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.